And at the beginning, things really weren't that complex. The 401k, then we opened the Roth IRA, and then the brokerage account gets more and more complex. 529 accounts to fund our children's education. We have stock units, stock options, employee stock purchase plans. We have to figure out group benefits, life insurance, disability insurance. We have to figure out when is the right time to purchase long-term care. The cost of making a mistake as you ride that complexity curve becomes greater and greater and greater. You start to receive stock units or stock options. Sometimes this triggers this thing called the alternative minimum tax, or AMT. And it's neither alternative or minimum. It's mandatory and it's maximum. You're acting upon a financial plan, not making decisions out of fear, greed, euphoria. The 40-year-old with $1 million turns into the 55-year-old who is financially independent, who has a lot of options later in life. Hey everyone, Nick Nielsen, certified financial planner. I was recently asked a thought-provoking question, which was, where do you do your best work? Where do you shine? And I want to share my answer with you and just some of my own personal reflections on my own journey. So I would say first and foremost, we do our best work for people who are hungry for advice and guidance, people who want to take the next steps that we recommend and implement them. But beyond that, I think where we really shine and do our best work is for that 40-year-old who has already saved and invested their first $1 million or has household income above $250,000. The reason why is the advice and guidance that we're recommending for these folks, when they implement it, there is incredible value that they are deriving from it. These are action items that can really move the needle in their own financial plan, and they can see tangible results quickly. So why 40-year-olds, not 30-year-olds? Why $1 million and not $100,000? And I think about my own journey, and probably many of yours as well, right? You start out of college, maybe you're renting an apartment. I got married, had a small house, and then for us, we started adopting our children, 3 kids, and as we adopted from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, the house got bigger and bigger. The point of this reflection is just saying that in the beginning, things were small, and then they built and built and built. And the assets kind of did the same thing as well. When you began, it was the 401k, then we opened the Roth IRA, and then the brokerage account. And at the beginning, things really weren't that complex. But as life goes on, as we get married, as we have children, as we do well and advance in our careers, everything within our financial picture gets more and more complex. 529 accounts to fund our children's education. We have stock units, stock options, employee stock purchase plans. We have to figure out group benefits, life insurance, disability insurance. We have to figure out when is the right time to purchase long-term care. And so all of these things start to weigh on us. And the complexity at this point is really where I believe that clients have their biggest aha moments, because the burden builds and builds and builds. And then hopefully with proper planning and getting a new perspective, it provides some simplicity and clarity to your overall financial situation. And sometimes it's just having a non-biased party make some recommendations about what are the most appropriate next steps. For most people, you can only ride that complexity curve for so long until you need to ask someone for assistance, a second set of eyes, a partner to do it with, a Sherpa to climb the mountain, if you will. Those are all great things, because the one thing that you start to feel is that the cost of making a mistake as you ride that complexity curve becomes greater and greater and greater. When you first started out and you had $10,000 that you had saved and invested, a 10% mistake, while it might hurt, was $1,000. As you go further along the complexity curve, a 10% stake on $100,000 was a $10,000 mistake. That starts to get pretty painful. Once you reach $1 million, a 10% mistake is now a $100,000 mistake. And you start thinking in terms of, well, that's what I earned my first 2 or 3 years of work. So as we ride that complexity curve, the cost of making a mistake starts to rise to a point where it's good to have a partner to make sure that you're dotting your I's and crossing your T's. This doesn't mean that investment risk goes away or that volatility ceases. It just means that we want to make sure that there's no obvious missteps that we're making. As you ride that complexity curve, one of the things that happens to so many is that you start to receive stock units or stock options. And sometimes this triggers this thing called the alternative minimum tax, or AMT. And it's neither alternative or minimum. It's mandatory and it's maximum. And this newfound taxation can be a very powerful motivator to start working with a financial planner to either make sure that you never end up in AMT again, or to have a plan to pay for the tax bill should you intentionally trigger AMT in the future. I think the reason why we're able to shine with this 40-year-old client, $1 million saved and invested, making $250,000 a year, is because we can take all of this information and we put it onto a one-page financial plan that, amongst all the noise and chaos in our lives, can simplify it down to 2 to 3 next steps. Some simple action items that you can take to immediately make progress in your own financial plan. And what we have found with high achieving professionals like you is that when we give you 2 or 3 action items, it feels like something that you can accomplish. You immediately go and get those things done. You check back in and say, hey Nick, I got my action items done, what's next? And I can give you 2 or 3 more. And before you know it, we've accomplished a great deal. Compare that to getting an action item list on day 1 with 15 or 20 next steps. That can be so overwhelming in a busy and chaotic world that you don't even start. Our mentality, simple and concise, and let's continue to move the ball forward. Before you know it, you're acting upon a financial plan, not making decisions out of fear, greed, euphoria. The 40-year-old with $1 million turns into the 55-year-old who is financially independent, who has a lot of options later in life. If you found this video helpful, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. But really, I think the very best thing that we do, it's our Dollars and Diagrams email. It goes out every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. Real financial planning stories and insights and reflections. Thanks for watching the video and have a great day.